Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, the late edition. All right, it's Friday, November 10th. It's about to be the last time I can wear my November fall floral outfits. So I thought I'd get that in. All right, look, we got a lot to cover, so I'm just going to roll right into it. Trump is romping in these polls. He is. It's a lot worse for Biden if you just look beyond the top line number and inside the numbers, which we're going to do in a little bit. But before we do that, some big developments. There's just no doubt about it. Trump picked up two very big endorsements this week, including one within the last 24 hours. Well, really, two, if you consider when the op-ed was published. We're in the last 24 hours. But one is from Ron DeSantis's biggest donor. Big deal. We've talked about him in the past. We've talked about who he is, what he does. A fascinating guy. Somebody who you certainly wouldn't mind to support you if you don't owe them anything. If you have, how can I put this? If you have self-sufficiency, independence, and you did not need him to get to where you're at, he's not a bad guy to have around. He's a very fascinating guy. I've done actually a lot of research into his former property, where he did a classified investigation called Skinwalker Ranch. You know how I am about UAPs. You know where I've come from. Went to the behavior panel with all the guys, and we discussed something of my own that I wanted to, and you guys should definitely go and check that out. It was very cool. But of course, I'm talking about Robert Bigelow, somebody who's made a fortune in the aerospace, getting aerospace contracts and defense contracts from the United States government, a lot of top secret stuff, skunk works level stuff. But this is not a guy you want to bankroll you and to be beholden to. What he's doing with Donald Trump right now is what rich donors do: stab people in the back when someone else is winning, and then jump on board the ship that they think is the gravy train. Well, he has now recognized that Donald Trump is indeed the gravy train. He can talk about Israel and all this other stuff all he wants. The bottom line is he needs to be friendly with whomever the president is because he needs his contracts. And it's such a entangled, twisted relationship. He had a very good, and they were very good friends. Him and the late Democratic majority leader in the U.S. Senate, Harry Reid, they together spoke quite a bit about UAPs and the need for the government to look into. And of course, I'm talking about unidentified aerial phenomena, which is otherwise known as unidentified flying object, UFOs, right? So it is his relationship with Harry Reid that got the ball rolling on what we later became known as ATIP, right? So this is this guy is permanent fixture, okay? And Bigelow Industries is a permanent fixture. And he wants to make sure that he still has a seat at the table. If you're Donald Trump, you'll take him. You'll take his support. You don't need it, but you'll take it. And if you're Ron DeSantis, listen. Everyone can try to downplay all of these developments all they want. The truth is this primary is over. They're waiting around to see whether or not Donald Trump is gagged, thrown in jail, and rotting. They cannot beat him at the ballot box. This is a reflection of Robert Bigelow's assessment that they cannot beat him at the ballot box. Losing your largest donor is a campaign-ending blow if you're going bankrupt and using a super PAC to be able to keep you afloat. This is a big problem. Getting rebuked by state assemblies is a big problem. Getting rebuked by legislators who were once supporters of you is a big problem. All right. So pretending like it's not is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right. Let's get into it. Because Bigelow's not the only one. There's an op-ed, which if we have time, I'd like to read. This is from Miranda Nazaro in The Hill. Trump picks up backing from two major GOP donors. Former President Trump on Thursday picked up support from two major GOP donors, serving the latest blow to his GOP rivals as they struggle to make a dent in his sizable lead. Robert Bigelow, one of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' most prominent donors, he is the biggest donor, said he is switching his support from the Florida governor to Trump. We told you, we reported on this earlier in the week. We told you it was coming. If you watched our election day coverage, our election night coverage, when Sean Parnell came on, we went over this briefly as we were waiting for more results. We said it's coming. Get ready. This is going to happen. And here it is. Bigelow, owner of the Budget Suites of America and founder of Bigelow Aerospace, told the Las Vegas Review Journal that DeSantis is, quote, not strong enough unquote. Nor is he the commander in chief the U.S. needs at this point in time. Quote, we need the guy in the White House who scares the hell out of every other leader in the world who intends to do harm to this country, Bigelow told the Las Vegas Review-Journal on Wednesday. In an August interview with Reuters, Bigelow warned he would cut off funds to DeSantis' 2024 campaign if he did not adopt a more moderate approach. Again, donors like Peter Fye, you remember how he was talking about all this stuff? It was abortion. He didn't know about DeSantis' position on it. All this other crap. That's a load of junk. Of course they knew where DeSantis stood on this. Bigelow probably saw the results on Tuesday and said, this is the final straw. Donald Trump was right about how to walk the line with abortion. Donald Trump was right about how to deal with the Middle East situation. And by the way, Donald Trump has a massive lead. He's going to win. So if I don't want to be boxed out of the next Trump administration, I better get on board. That's how these people think. And he's right. He didn't get rich and powerful being an idiot. They may not understand the political trends in the country and are late to the game, but Peter Fye bailed for a reason. Bigelow bailed for a reason. Ken Griffin bailed for a reason. And I told you the problem with running a big donor campaign the way Ron DeSantis did is there's a couple issues, but it's twofold. One, they max out and then they have to fund your super PAC by using your super PAC to run a campaign. And by the way, don't be surprised if they come after Ron DeSantis after all this is over. They probably are going to. Number two, they max out. You owe them. You have no grassroots support. You wind up drying up. You owe them anyway. You're beholden to them. Is he going to cut defense spending when the debt cripples us? Is defense going to be the first thing on the chopping block when he has people like Griffin and Bigelow, as his donors? Of course not. They'll cut your social welfare checks. They'll cut veterans benefits. They'll cut things that are key. Hell, they'd probably cut space exploration before they cut off the bomb making. Anyway, backing Trump is a large shift for Bigelow, who initially threw his support behind DeSantis in April, when he told Time he could not support Trump after the January 6th Capitol riots. Now Bigelow tells the Las Vegas Review-Journal that despite being bombastic and egotistical, Trump still has proven himself as a president, telling the paper Trump was a really good commander, which is what this country needs. Bigelow said he still wants to see the former president get out of the kangaroo courts problems that he's involved in. So now it's a kangaroo court. I just want to point that out. Now it's a kangaroo court. Before he was an insurrectionist, and I could never support an insurrectionist. Now it's a kangaroo court system. By the way, Elise Stefanik is rising quickly to be a national treasure. Devin Nunes was on this program last week. I wanted to clip something. I just didn't have time. But she filed an official complaint against the judge, Chuck, in that case. Laura Loomer's pulled up a whole lot of stuff. And she's filed an official ethics complaint. I mean, it's about time. Anyway, the DeSantis campaign did not immediately respond to the Hill's request for comment. They didn't respond to RCP either, who had requested several comments for them about several different bad developments like this. They're just ignoring it at this point. If you're going to pay a communications director and they don't respond to the media, what the hell's the point? It's a worthless expenditure. It's wasting of money. Redirect that salary to a get out the vote operation that the Republican Party desperately needs. I mean, what the hell? If you're just going to go dark and attack people on Twitter like little babies and smear people on Twitter, then what the hell are you doing? Like, what the hell is your role? And worse, and even more important question. What exactly are you contributing to the process? Because hanging around and hoping and praying that the radical left, the Biden regime, throws Donald Trump in jail is not a strategy. Because you're never going to win the presidency anyway like that. I just hate to pop everybody's bubble. 30% of your vote's not going to show up. You're going to get your ass kicked, and that's going to be the end of it. Top GOP donor and Home Depot co-founder Bernie Marcus also announced his endorsement of Trump on Thursday, arguing the former president is the simple choice in a high-stakes political world. So before we move on, I really wanted to read this whole op-ed, but maybe I'll save it and I'll do some clips here from the Hill and move on. In an op-ed with Real Clear Politics, Marcus, who's now 94, said while he is exhausted by politics and wanted the younger generations to take the lead, he realized he could not walk away because, quote, the stakes are just too high. It was, folks, if you did not read this op-ed, even if you're not a supporter of Donald Trump, it is a phenomenal op-ed. This man has been around for a long time. Marcus is somebody that I've listened to, just his opinion, God, since I was like 18 years old. He's an incredibly bright man. He's a philanthropist. And what he's saying is, man, I got this overall theme in his endorsement op-ed of Donald Trump that basically said, it's Trump or bust. I don't want to die and leave this country like this. I do not want to go to the ground with this country on the precipice of authoritarianism. For Democrats, the choice is simple. If you feel that you're better off now than you were 3 years ago, you should vote for Joe Biden or whoever the Democrat candidate, Marcus wrote. For Republicans, the choice is also simple. Let's face it, Donald Trump is going to win the nomination. You should be doing all you can to ensure his winning the general election. Nothing he understands, not that he doesn't understand the frustration with Trump from some Republicans, he said. The party, quote, cannot let his brash style be the reason we walk away from his otherwise excellent stewardship of the United States during his first term in office. Pointing to the Mexican border, U.S.-Mexico border, the economy and education, he warned these problems cannot be our legacy and that they should not be partisan issues. Quote, this should be an issue for all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents that I hope to reach with this op-ed. You enjoy the freedoms and values on which this nation was founded? Sadly, I see these freedoms and values being eroded today as government gets bigger and weaponized against its political opponents. The support comes on the heels of the third debate, which Trump once again overshadowed with a massive rally in Hialeah, Florida. And his policies that he's just, everyone's, he just says the same stuff with the microphone. You're not paying attention. The man has been laying out thoughtful policies. He brings them to these rallies. He talks about them with these campaign stops in between having to appear in kangaroo courts all over the country. And people are listening. We're going to look at the polls in a second. It's more than just Trump +6 in Georgia, Trump +5 in Arizona, Trump +8 in this one, and 10 in Nevada. It's more than that. And I'm going to show you. When it comes to President Trump, the two rivals are often in a dead heat. I tweeted about this. The polling last weekend showed the incumbent trailing Trump in a head-to-head match. Folks, when Biden was leading Donald Trump in the state of Pennsylvania by 4 to 8 points in different polls, they did not characterize it as Biden has a slight edge and they're in a dead heat. But you know what? A few polls last weekend showed Trump was a little bit ahead. Bull crap. They characterized it as Trump is down, Biden's assured, Biden has a strong lead, Biden has a clear edge. Here is the latest 2024 polling from Real Clear Politics. Well, not from, they're not, that is aggregate on Real Clear Politics, which, by the way, we were featured on yesterday, in case you guys didn't see it. It's a whole lot of red, folks. Whole lot of red. You got one poll where Biden is up in Michigan. The tip poll, I got to say this, the IBD tip poll has a tremendously positive reputation, but they should have either conducted a larger sample or they should have refrained from releasing this poll. My fellow pollsters and I have talked about this before. Like, what is the line in which you spike a poll? Okay. Because I like to show almost all results. I don't know that I ever have totally spiked. I don't think so. I don't think that's ever happened. But I've also I've never been faced with a situation like IBD did with the tip poll. Okay. The Investor Business Daily poll is a good poll. So I just want to make that clear. However, when you have Biden leading with men by double digits and Trump leading with women by double digits, and Trump, the Midwest didn't even look competitive, which I guess could be the case. But then it tied in the South. Folks, there's something wrong with the poll. I'm not saying that because Biden's up 2 in it. And they put it in their, in their own thing. They put it in that, 2 points is statistical heat, technically. But there's some really screwy stuff. The age stuff is really weird. but gender immediately should jump out at you. Biden is not going to win. Oh, look, there I am right there, folks. Ta-da! Biden is not going to win men by 15 points while Trump wins women by 13. There's something very, very seriously wrong with that poll, and it's an issue. Okay? Yeah, I see the damn. I just got to respond to locals, the chat, real quick, and it is Friday. When you're putting out a fake online poll, then you're just sad ass. Okay, I mean that is a poll from Town Hall. Town Hall is very clearly filled with a bunch of journalists who support Ron DeSantis. And by the way, when I saw that poll last night, it was like 58 Trump. It's not a real poll. That is a Town Hall newsletter list poll that they are. It's not scientific. When you're at the point when you're really seriously saying, forget all the scientific polls are wrong. The Salem Media Group Town Hall email newsletter poll, go to my website and anyone can vote in it poll, has DeSantis ahead, then this is just, I don't even know. I honestly can't even. It's absolutely ridiculous. And actually, as of this morning, actually, it looks like somebody just put the newest one in the chat, and Trump was at 65%. So, I mean, they have destroyed their credibility forever. I mean, yes, they have. Putting that poll up there and pretending like as a news outlet, they are not going to come out and tell people that that is not a scientific poll to do that. And because you support Ron DeSantis is just, first of all, it's pathetic. Second of all, it's unethical, extremely unethical. Then you have people like Guy Benson, who writes on Town, like he works for them, and going, well, you know, the Marquette poll is the gold standard in Wisconsin. The Marquette poll has not been the gold standard in the state of Wisconsin since 2012. Okay, this is total BS. They overstated Hillary Clinton's support by 7 points. They overstated Biden's support by 8 points. They were wrong in the last two presidential elections, and they were wrong bad. They have been for the longest time. Remember the tranches, guys? We go over this. They were way, way, way outside of the consensus. You remember the bearish tranche? They never even really made it to the bearish tranche. How bad was it? Fox News had Trump up by 18 in the primary, and the Marquette poll still had DeSantis up by 2. When Trump's lead on Real Clear Politics was 17.8% average lead, the Marquette University poll, the Marquette Law University poll, put out a DeSantis +2. Folks, that's not bearish. That's wildly outside of the consensus. That is something where you're like, we're just talking about with IBD tip. Is this statistical noise? Because this is way outside of being even an outlier. Outliers would be Trump +5, Trump +10. Not even. I mean, Trump +5, you know, I mean, primary polls can be kind of fun, but not 25 points, folks. It is totally off their rocker. And it is only because of that poll, by the way, that Trump is even as close as he is in the Real Clear Politics average of polls right now, which we'll look at Wisconsin first. But there's a couple I want to look at. See, the Biden +0.7. The Marquette poll and that's right, the New York Times poll did have it. And Emerson went from Trump +2. Listen, Wisconsin's notorious for this. Expect it to be extremely close. Okay. Pennsylvania in the head-to-head, although I think this is a state where Kennedy can get on the ballot. We also have the entrance of Jill Stein now into the presidential race. Jill Stein will get on ballots. All right. This is a big development because Cornel West gave up something that Jill Stein now has: the organization, the experience, the know-how. What do I got to do to get on the ballot? When do I got to do it? Pennsylvania looking like Trump country. There's some big leads in some of these polls. +9. Most of them are pretty close, but that's significant. The Bloomberg Morning Consult poll continued to have, listen, again, though, inside, we're going to go a little bit here, inside the numbers. Kennedy's favorability was stronger among Trump-leaning independents than it was among Trump-Biden-leaning independents. And by the way, also that's true of partisans. So there's again, maybe we haven't polled it in a bit. So it's very possible that some of the attacks on Kennedy or some of the things that had come up have pulled some of those voters away from him. But even in the commentary, they make the point that right now it looks to us like it's roughly equal, but it's really not if you consider what could happen here. And I just think we just picked up on it better. One of the main arguments that Trump's opponents, if you even want to call them that, have made was the electability argument. And we've gone over this with Nikki Haley. Her lead is not real. It will evaporate. It is ephemeral. It is not real. Arizona and Georgia, particularly, have been two states where Trump opponents, never Trump, has made the case that the former president cannot win because he cannot win Arizona and Georgia. Well, Georgia's not looking very competitive. You may remember, even though you had people like Garrett Archer, my frenemy, Arizona data guru, who has some like unnamed position in the Arizona government, state government, where he gets to see votes before anyone else, including media, even though he has no official role to be in that area at that time while they're counting. As long as, I guess, what's the deal, Garrett? You come up with an excuse every time something screwy comes up, every time something shady as shit comes up, you come up with an excuse, and in exchange, you get to have access behind the scenes so you can kind of get your eyes on everything so you can make an excuse faster. Is that the deal you have over there? Anyway, a couple weeks ago, actually, not long ago, maybe it was a month and a half tops, he says, that's early poll in Georgia. And this is why I don't like early polls. There's just no way. I mean, Trump +8's kind of ridiculous. And you may remember, it was Rasmussen's poll. And I said, no, actually, it's not that ridiculous. Leading up until 22, when we had Walker and Warnock in a statistical tie, Trump was up by, what was it, 8? Something like that. Trump was running ahead of Republicans in all the battleground districts in the 2022 polling. Way ahead. So even if Walker fell 1 point shy on the initial runoff, which he did, Trump, let's say, because it was Walker, let's say 3-point overstatement of Republican support. So Trump would have still won Georgia by 5 points. Right now, the RCP average is Trump 5.5. This is not looking fair, yes, it still can be competitive. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll is one of the most liberal polls out there, so I'm not even all terribly surprised that that's the case. But I remember this guy, man, when we were polling in 22. This guy in Atlanta, roughly my age, he voted for Joe Biden. He was an independent. And talking to him because, I jump on interviews. I make sure I'm listening to make sure that our people are doing good work, correct work. And I remember jumping on with this guy and saying, you know what, I'll handle this. I just want to hear it, And his remorse. And I screwed the pooch. I bought all that crap. This guy was supposed to be a stabilizing force. Instead, nothing is stabilized. So I guess it was really the media, and to put it into terms you guys would understand from the conversations we've had. I guess it really was the media and Democrats rocking the boat all the time. I guess they really were. And he's just, because of his attitude, Trump, because of how the kind of personality he has, it made it easy for them to kind of like blame him for it. But the truth is they were the ones rocking the boat all the time. And by the way, look at the favorability ratings. If it wasn't for the shitty Ipsos poll, Trump would actually be ahead in favorability right now. Okay. Let's go to the three-way. Oops, I meant to do three-way with Georgia. Sorry about that. There it is right there. Let's do it. The three-way, again, we only have one in the state of Georgia. However, I just want to point this out. I don't find it terribly constructive. I would probably do it too, just for shits and giggles, if I was polling the state. Why? Because, if I was polling the state along with other states, like Morning Consult did. Why? Because he's not getting in the ballot in Georgia. Folks, it's not going to happen. The chance RFK, who's not even targeting it right now, but the chance that he does get on the ballot in states like Georgia and Arizona are so nil. Are they zero? I mean, nothing's ever zero, even though I may say that and be hyperbolic once in a while. Nothing's ever zero. But the last independent to get on the ballot in Georgia was Ross Perot in 1992. That's how long ago it was. 1992. 1992. One more time. 1992. It was 30 years ago. And Ross Perot had connections with the Reform Party and even the Republican Party. And he had a lot of money. He could self-fund. He was loaded. All right, so let's now move to Pennsylvania, where Morning Consult's got Trump +3. Even with Kennedy in the race, they still have him as Trump +3. I just want to point something out here. Trump polls, he did with us. Twice, Trump polled stronger in Pennsylvania than he did in Wisconsin. For both of in 2016 and 2020, even though 2016 was much, much closer. We had Trump +1s in both states, but the Trump +1 in Pennsylvania was Trump 0.6, and I believe the Trump +1 in Wisconsin was literally 0.5. So, or maybe Pennsylvania was 0.8. But anyway, it was mildly better. In 2020, especially in the raw data collection, it was markedly more favorable to Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. But the vote in both accounts appeared to have been stronger, at least when we were able to call Wisconsin quicker. And in Wisconsin in 2020, it was closer than in Pennsylvania. Even though we all believe that's probably everybody listening right now believes that's a load of shit. But it was still closer. Wisconsin is notorious for polling wacky. Why? Because large parts of Wisconsin look a lot more like Iowa than they do Pennsylvania, which is the Appalachia, region. Some 50 counties plus in Pennsylvania are actually, or some 50% or something like that of the counties. I'd have to go back and look. But large portions of it are Appalachia, right? Only part of it in the northern stretch and the eastern stretch is Yankeedom, from the old book, The Emerging Republican Majority. Yet Wisconsin has a lot of migrant Yankees. So they're looped into the Rust Belt idea, and they tend to vote pretty close to each other. But the racial and ethnic diversities of them make Wisconsin especially a wild pain in the butt. You have Scandinavians, not as many as you have in Minnesota, but you have them. You got Norwegians. And a lot of them. You have Germans, not as many as you do in Pennsylvania, but you got them. You have some Italian, not a whole lot. You have Irish, you have Scot-Irish, you got Poles. You got French Canadian. Wisconsin's a very interesting place to poll. And of course, you have of English descent, or otherwise known as, just people would say, American, where they are English, literally from England, merry old England, but they'll call themselves American. We give them the option to, identify as English ethnicity. And it's a pain in the butt. And it also happens to be extremely, geography-wise, that diversity and ethnicity becomes a real issue. It becomes hard because it's much more rural. There are only really two blue big vote centers and in a sea of red against Trump and like Reagan. And then it all comes down to how well the Democrat can pull off Northwestern Wisconsin, because the vote share is so close. And of course, we always focus on wow, and wow is so crucial and so important. Republicans have been doing terribly in Racine and Kenosha. Well, everyone focuses on Waukesha, but which is important, of course. It's very important. So is Brown. They all are. It's never one thing in politics, but I mean, you can't lose Kenosha and win the damn state. Republican candidates, including Supreme Court candidates, have continued to lose the county of Kenosha. Mitt Romney lost Kenosha, didn't he? Let me look. I believe he did. And I believe I have it right here. No, I got rid of it. All I got is Georgia. Blah. All right, but I'll go back and check. I think he in fact did. All right, so you have Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Let's go back to the latest polls. There's something I want to bring up about the Rust Belt polling before we get into this again. And then you do see, the state of Nevada, because it's like, and Ohio is just forget it. It's not even close. Where is this strength, this newfound strength among Hispanics going to come from? Or where is it? Yeah, I mean, that's really where it comes down to. We already saw it in South Texas. We already saw it in South Florida. Where is it going to come from if he's now in the plus 40s? The CNN poll is unbelievable. Have you seen it? The Trump plus 8, Georgia's Emerson, Trump plus 4, Pennsylvania. Where's the CNN poll? Here we go. With Kennedy, actually, they have it Trump plus 6, but 49-44, Trump's going to get in the 40s with Hispanic vote. This is not everyone's going to be wrong. It looks like Trump's going to get in the 40s. And again, this is what I'm talking about right here. Haley, this general election poll, her support is not real. Do you see how she's at 49% where Trump is? And then Biden just falls to 43. Barnes and I have explained this to you over and over again. This isn't her being stronger. This is Biden people not really knowing who she is and then going to undecided, and Republicans and otherwise Trump supporters not knowing that much about her other than that she was his UN ambassador, saying, okay, I'd vote for Haley against Biden. But the truth be told, when the election gets underway and she becomes more well-known, she's going to end up a lot closer to DeSantis. And actually, even in the CNN poll, this is a particularly good one for him. But the more people got to know DeSantis, the more he fell. Now he's losing to Joe Biden in the aggregate of averages. All right. So we only know for sure the Trump Biden numbers because they are known quantities. Everyone else will just totally collapse. By the way, both those California polls you're looking at, you have this one and then you have the Berkeley one. That is no delegates for anybody else. Nobody else qualifies. It ends up being that's it. I mean, it's Trump winner take all. Every single 170 nearly delegates gone to Trump. So that would be it. I mean, Super Tuesday would be it. I mean, that's all. Because you have Texas too. And we've gone over the rules in Texas. He's going to trigger the winner take all rules in Texas as well. There are minimum thresholds in many of these states. It's not just that they're who's battling for second, who's surging to 10%. You have to surge above 20 in many of these states to even get delegates. 15%. They're on the line of that. And the undecideds look like Trump voters. So if you don't change minds, it's a problem. Arizona is another one of those states. Everybody said, well, he's unelectable. He's unelectable. He can't win Arizona. Well, I mean, he's leading in every single poll except for one poll, which has been terribly wrong, even though they're from Arizona. And then the other poll that had Biden up by a mere 1 point in Arizona was conducted by Ron DeSantis' pollster. So we could just throw it out. POS is an appropriate acronym. Okay? What is going on here? Something I want to show you. Okay? I went to Twitter and brought it up. I'm going to try to get to some of this news stuff because I think what you saw Elise Stefanik do was huge. We have to try to talk about that. There's a clip from Barnes I wanted to play for a while. Gorka, I love you, man. I love you. Thank you for I don't even know what you'd call it, but the defense of me, and love, nothing but love for you, Dr. Gorka, against these just disgusting piece of shit smear merchants who can't admit they were wrong. Trump's going to skip the debate and really hurt himself. He's going to do himself so dirty by not going to the debate. And we're going to do so well. We're going to change the trajectory of the race 40 points. I'm only mocking you, not because I support one candidate over another. It's just that you've refused to listen to reality and reason for so long. You just dug yourself in this massive hole and you just look so stupid. And you made yourself unelectable now. You made your candidate unelectable. You hurt him. You hurt his future. And it's sad. So now you just deserve ridicule. Trump didn't go to that second debate. You remember that? What did Donald Trump go to do? He went to go speak to the United Auto Workers Union, right? Everybody said, it's a stunt. It's nuts, blah, blah, blah. In the morning console poll done for Bloomberg, trust on who to handle issues is astonishing. All right, let me see if I can actually pull up Dave's thing that he always aggregates anyway. But I'm just going to tell you right now. Who do you trust to handle labor and union issues? Trump by 1. That doesn't happen. Republicans do not defeat Democrats. All right, let me put it this way. Republican presidential candidates do not lead Democratic presidential candidates on labor issues. Okay? I don't know. When is that ever happened? This may be a first because it was close in 2016. And I kind of feel like there's something happening here that's like some kind of repeat from that. Okay. All right. Oh, I guess they're just putting me up there as like, I didn't know it was, that's not a chat, is it? I don't think so. It's just a regular old show, right? I don't know. It streams to it automatically. But look at abortion. See, Trump's a moderate on abortion. Iowa, listen, Trump is too left on abortion, even though he overturned Roe v. Wade. His judges overturned Roe v. Wade. See, he's really a liberal from Queens. I'll tell you what he is. He's not getting his ass kicked by 30 points on the issue of abortion, like the rest of the Republican Party is. Well, almost 30 points. And in truth, it turns up on election day in actual votes to be more than that. You can see it, or roughly. On the issue of democracy, with all the stink about January 6th, with all the charges, 91 felony charges. 91. More than John Gotti, the Black Hand of Death, and Jeffrey Dahmer put together. Actually, even Ted Bundy, too. You could add Ted Bundy in there. Absolutely, you could. They didn't get Ted on all those murders. What they believed him to have committed. We probably killed a lot more of those young girls. That's how absurd that 91 number is. And yet still, Biden has a mere 3-point lead on, quote, whatever democracy means. Trump leads on the economy by 16 points. Immigration, 18 points. Stock market, 20 points. Gas prices, 19 points. Again, the labor and union stuff is huge. I was talking to Charlie Kirk's people about this earlier this morning. Like, you guys must have missed. I mean, so many people miss this. Look at it and then compare it, by the way, when you see these issues in comparison to Republicans. On the economy and generic economy stuff, Republicans do very well with that. But on Social Security and Medicare, they get clobbered. And here, Trump is only down by 3. Interest rates, Trump is plus 16. Cost of everyday goods, Trump is plus 14. That's so friggin' huge. So huge. Labor and unions, Republicans get trounced on. Abortion, they get trounced on. Issues like healthcare, they get trounced on. Not Trump. Not Trump. Who else can I give kudos to other than, Barnes and I, who have for a very long time explained why this is? I guess I could give kudos to Jack Posobiec. Jack is a Rust Belt guy, and he gets it. You come out and attack Trump on Social Security the way that Team DeSantis did.
in the beginning of the primary season. You're done. You lost Pennsylvania. And they just don't think that. They don't understand that. There's a reason why the big con, led by like Ben Shapiro and Eric Erickson, couldn't nominate a winner for the life of them. They weren't competitive in these states, ladies and gentlemen. The closest they ever got, and they lost them. They lost every single one of them anyway. But the closest they ever got was George W. Bush. In many cases, he performed better in some areas, even though he did better nationwide for re-election. In some of these areas, he did better the first go-around because he ran as a non-interventionalist. He said, we cannot be the police of the world. Of course, he reneged on that promise, and Kerry wound up doing them a lot dirtier in some of these other states. Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin was very close a couple of times, handful, 3,000 votes. Very close. But as you can see, this is this is just very huge. Very huge. And if we keep going, go throughout all of them, you can see that. Donald Trump leads Joe Biden on guns, when, by the way, Republicans are generically usually down on that. Because gun control, people think about, and they think, the NRA. U.S.-China relations, Trump plus 14. Climate change is Biden plus 12. It's like the only issue of any real consequence where he has a big lead. Senior services, you have to keep an eye on. Social Security, Medicare, you do have to keep an eye on that because seniors are getting more liberal. They're getting older now. As some of the more liberal people are growing up, seniors are getting more liberal. So you have to win that working prime age vote. You need a new coalition. Republicans aren't getting back the 30-point margin among seniors. That's not going to happen. Not for a while. So they have to figure out something else. Look at healthcare. They're damn near tied. This is remarkable. Education, tied, basically. Remarkable. But the big issues that matter, Trump is absolutely clobbering him. And they're about tied on housing. Even though, Trump has a 2-point edge, it's basically a tie. Infrastructure. What Republican leads a Democrat on infrastructure? God. Honestly, it's tough to go on and 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 on. The economy is overwhelmingly the issue people will say they're going to go out and vote on. Watch that 5% with abortion because it's all Democrat. It's all Democrat. There will be 8% too, democracy. Although, if you looked at the numbers again, Trump was very close to him on that. So it's very clearly some people who are voting against political lawfare. Looks like it's going to be about 4% of the vote that say lawfare. The economy's a lot of it. Truth be told, that's why we like ranked choice distribution on asking these questions, because it's so hard to just pick one issue. There are people who vote on the economy, and that's overwhelmingly their number one issue. But a lot of people vote on different things that are in the back of their mind, and they may have priorities on quite a lot. When we do rank distribution, it always gives us a sense of, for instance, what's number 2? Immigration, right? But if you were to say rank it in the order of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way down, however many choices you give somebody, in that instance, the economy is going to be number 1 because it has such a big lead. But immigration and democracy may switch up a little bit. Or, let me see. Guns, abortion, and climate control, right? Climate change. That all could be shuffled up a little bit, depending on how many people chose where they rank them in that order. So they'll get literally a ranking score that tells you whether or not there are more people considering that as a reason to vote, which is a big deal, of course, because it is, right? All right. Real quick before we take a break, there is something I just want to. The break we're going to take is literally going to be me playing a video, and then we'll come back. I'll probably wind up doing doing a quick read, but I don't want to take too long. I know Laura's unfortunately not around to do the questions. I'm going to have to scroll through them myself because I want to get a couple of them. And then it's Veterans Day, by the way. Happy Veterans. Well, it's the observation of Veterans Day. Did you know that? Technically, tomorrow is Veterans Day. And I just want to make this I just want to remember to, number one, wish everybody, of course, a happy Veterans Day, those who serve. But there's something I want to say here. If he doesn't get caught anyway, and he may have, I don't know, I haven't been following it. So while we're all celebrating and observing Veterans Day, it's important to remember that one of them is being chased down like a dog by the out of control, corrupt FBI. Why? Because he may or may not have shot a pepper spray at a Capitol Hill police officer and protesters, not just one or the other. So Gregory Yetman had been identified for photographs, even though he was wearing, in the photos that I've seen with the videos I've seen, it's not very clear. That's number one. Number two, go check the FBI website right now. You'll see them. They crop the shit out of it. And he's wearing a mask. But anyway, I digress. Let's just, for sake of argument, concede that he did this. He was shooting both protesters and Capitol Hill officers with the pepper spray, trying to control the crowd by their own admission. He didn't trespass. He didn't burn any buildings down like Antifa, Black Lives Matter. This is a military sergeant, a veteran in the National Guard who just got out with an honorable discharge last year. The minute he saw the FBI, he took off like a bat out of hell. I can't imagine why. The FBI is totally out of control. To show up to that man's house like a paramilitary group and do what they did is totally outrageous. Mike Flynn gave more than 30 years of his life to this country, and what does he get? Piece of shit, corrupt agents entrapping him and taking away the family home that he was able to save for and eventually purchase with that 30 years of hard work and labor. That's what he got for his service. Gregory is not some unhinged, at least doesn't look like that. They're not even making it out like he is. Some privileged little shit, white privileged suburban little shit who can't wipe their own ass, who pretends like they need something bigger than them. So they join something like Antifa and go and burn down federal buildings in Minneapolis and in Portland and Seattle. I mean, no. He picked up a can of pepper spray and he'll spend his Veterans Day. It's cold in New Jersey at night right now, folks. They may find him frozen stiff against a pine tree somewhere. Think about that when you're celebrating your Veterans Day. Think about whether or not it's... what I'm going to say, I know people aren't going to like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Think about whether or not we really deserve their sacrifice. I'm not sure we did. I'm not sure we do. Not all of them, but today's modern era. It's funny. Mark Penn writes about why Republicans are losing on this issue of abortion, because he's right, by the way, as Mark Penn most often is. The persuasion argument's not it. The Democrats are juicing their vote to go out and vote. Republicans aren't. But the truth is, Republicans went too far. Like I said, have been saying, they went right for the jugular right away. Americans are reflexively pro-freedom. Even when there are things that they don't like, I may not like it, but I don't want you telling me I can't do it. Who the hell are you to tell me I can't do something? That's why the Second Amendment has survived all of these assaults by these fanatics and authoritarians for decades. Because Americans don't like being told they're not allowed to do something. Even though they don't want abortions, most of them do not. A large super majority in this country, more than a super majority, opposes late-term abortion. A majority of pro-choice voters oppose late-term abortion. 20-week mark, a plurality of pro-choice voters does. Remember the part where the baby can feel pain, but they didn't go for that. No. They went right for it. And they reflexively reject it. And they say, we're not a country of prohibitions. Well, my point is, why aren't we reflexively rejecting this in a lot more bold fashion? I urge people to look at Spain. When voting no longer works and the status quo is willing to use violence and police state power to stop the people from effecting change, the people first try the ballot box. It doesn't work, even if they get their person. They're usually either hindered, subverted, this just shit is rigged or something, some kind of misinformation op. I mean, what they did to you in 16 and 17 is what they do all around the world to prevent change, to prop up status quo regimes. It's sad and it's sick because that's not what this is ever. They are never, ever supposed to have the mandate to do that. But they did. They turned the dark art on you. They're doing it to the people of Spain now. So they said, okay, the voting doesn't work. We're going to have to do this other ways. When the people get close to effecting change, the status quo is very happy to use the sick that they have cultivated in society to commit acts of political violence against you. Well, that's where we're headed to if we do not figure this out. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to play a couple of minutes from Barnes here and I. Somebody had put this up. I want to thank him for it too, finding the receipts. You know what? Let me just get it before I do. Will Grice, people are very, very good at going out and getting the receipts. I'm going to play this for a little bit while I look over some questions, and we'll come back. Don't forget, by the way, our friends at Jam and Bean. I don't know about you, but I need myself a cup of coffee to keep going throughout the day, especially on these weeks when we have these elections and things are just constant and I get no sleep. Friends at jamandbean.com, JAMN Bean.com are offering a great deal to the listeners of the show. If you use the promo code TPP40 on a new subscription, whether it's K-Cups or freshly roasted coffee, it will come sealed fresh and you can grind yourself. Penitent Man is one of my favorites. It's absolutely delicious. By the way, these are Michigan-based COVID heroes, great guys. They just happen to be incredible at what they do. Use the promo code TPP40 while you're checking out. Get yourself some gourmet popcorn. Trust me, you will not regret it. You'll get 40% off right off the rip. But still, when it renews every month, you're going to get 10% off anyway, just from using the People's Pundit promo code. So again, jamandbean.com, use the promo code TPP40 at checkout. And get yourself 40% off a new subscription from Jam and Bean. Get yourself something delicious. I'll keep you awake. I'll tell you what, I'm not a huge fan of medium roast. I'm just not. I like dark roasts. But as I get older, too, especially get later in the day, get heartburn, something like that, the medium roast settles well with me. It's just that I couldn't find one that was a really bold flavored medium roast. It's Jam and Bean. No need to look any further. Absolutely amazing. And they have very different ones, but they're all delicious. All right, I'm going to take this real quick break. You guys are going to watch this cool video, and Barnes and I are going to remind. Guys, wait till you see how old this video is. Why? This is before we got into the fight with other pollsters. By the way, calling Mark Penn trash and garbage, calling Spencer Kimball shit, right? Trashing me, others. Real professional. Now your dumbass looks stupid as hell. Even before all of that, Barnes and I going over the public polling project numbers, going over the details of other people's polling because they didn't even see it yet, identified the age and race trends. Specifically to Trump, by the way, just to Trump. We identified it right away and we saw it. And people were like, that's ridiculous. Look at where we are now. Barnes and I, way ahead of all these jokers.
30 it's points. Like DeSantis's camp is it's like you have to qualify for special ed to be a DeSantis social media influencer because they respond to me with some of the worst responses. Like I was pointing out, I was like, why Trump is surging against Biden. And they're like, Trump isn't surging against Biden. It's like, I guess you haven't paid attention. So for those out there who haven't paid attention, here's the 2020 to 2024 shifts amongst the same pollsters using the same methodology.
Right.
In YouGov, Trump was supposed to lose by 10. He's leading by 3. 13-point swing in YouGov. In Harvard, he was in 2020, they had him losing by 8. They now have him winning by 6. 14-point swing toward Trump. Fox, a 10-point swing towards Trump. ABC, a 15-point swing toward Trump. NBC, a 7-point swing to a 10-point swing for Trump.
But let's caveat that is Hillary, that is jointly conducted by Hillary Clinton's old pollster, Hart Research, and Ron DeSantis's pollster right now, Public Opinion Strategies. So NBC, to me, the nerve. Go ahead. Sorry, I just had.
Quinnipiac, 9-point swing towards Trump. CNBC, 10-point swing towards Trump. CNN, 14-point swing towards Trump. New York Times, 11-point swing towards Trump. All of these polls are showing massive double-digit swings from where they had Trump in 2020. And you break down some of the crosstab data and I looked at a deep dive of Harvard and YouGov, where we have a lot of their crosstab data. And here's some of the swings. So, they have a 13-point swing towards Trump in YouGov. But amongst women, it's a 16-point swing. Yep. Amongst black voters, it is a more than a 30-point swing. Amongst Hispanic voters, it's a 30-point swing. Amongst millennial voters, it's a 25-point swing. Amongst independent voters, it's a 20-point swing. And YouGov also, this last poll they did, they said, here's Trump versus Biden, and now here's a generic Democrat versus a generic Republican for the White House. Trump leads Biden by 3, and in the same poll amongst the same voters, a generic Democrat beats a generic Republican by 3. This completely refutes the entire premise that Steve Davis and all these people have, and Jesse Kelly and the rest for the DeSantis camp. They're just completely wrong because they have a mythical voter that doesn't even exist anymore. Most of them are, frankly, just, as we were mentioning, the old George W. Bush Iowa voter, literally dead. Because they're missing the massive shift amongst millennial voters. When you compare where Trump does better than generic Republicans, on average, he's doing 6 points better, but he's doing 8 points better amongst women. He's doing 17 points better amongst black voters, 16 points better amongst Hispanic voters, 14 points better amongst millennial voters, 10 points better amongst urban voters, and by the way, 6 to 7 points better amongst both urban and suburban voters. All of these people are missing, similar. Harvard, you look at the net favorable rating, and if you look at the net intensity rating, Trump's net intensity rating, as you've been noting, has been mostly underwater throughout his presidency. That's the net very unfavorable versus very favorable. And now that number is as low as it's ever been in some of these polls. It's now down to -7, for example, the net unfavorable rating, intense rating, only -7, whereas Biden is -20. In 2020, Biden was -5, Trump was -19. So you're talking about a swing of 25 points in intensity. And where is that swing taking place? Well, amongst voters under 50, Trump is now net positive in that intensity rating. Amongst Hispanic voters, it's dead even. Amongst black voters, it went from -60 to -30. I mean, you're seeing all of the swings are intensified. So there's these massive swings in general, but they're overwhelmingly disproportionately in one group: younger Gen Xers, millennials, and older Zoomers, and who are non-college, or a lot of these people have some college or a college at a local
the 2-year
small
folks
school,
he's talking about.
because the working class keeps getting more educated, but that doesn't make them any less working class.
That's right.
It's one of the great myths of the Democratic majority analysts, future majority analysts.
What you
read?
read?
That's because people got a college degree that they're liberal, not because of where and when and how few people got that degree in the past. But putting that aside, it's overwhelming these working class millennials under the age of 50 who are swinging by 20 to 25 points. And if you look at, say, black, independent, working class millennial men, it's maybe 3-4% of the whole electorate, but it's a little bit more in places like Philly and Milwaukee and Detroit and key cities in the election. You're talking about swings of 40 to 50 points, right?
Yeah. Listen, in the CNN poll, Trump is actually leading with minority men combined. Black, Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, all lumped together in non-white category. Men actually favor Trump. I kid you not. And we've seen that. But women have started to come along now. They've started to come they're not as clearly not at the support levels that men are. But the fact is, when Robert and I were having this debate, it was not the beginning of it, because as I showed you with the graph we put up on Data Wrapper and Locals, you know what I'm talking about. Well, everyone does. I've showed everyone, but Locals has it. I believe it may just be local supporters, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It wasn't new. This isn't new. It's a mirage, right? It's not a mirage. It hasn't been a mirage. It's been there the whole time. It's been there the entire time. This is the nightmare that John Podesta and his academic friends were going back and forth about back in 2015 and 16 in his emails that were dumped. This is exactly what they feared would happen. And Patrick Basham, by the way, is 100% correct. They accelerated this. They made him like a folk hero. That mugshot made him a folk hero. It did. You could do two things. They thought it would scare him enough with whites, especially suburban whites. I can't vote for that guy. Look at that mugshot. He's got a felony. Blah, 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 blah. America's a different ass place than it used to be. Nobody held that against Nelson Mandela. Nobody held that against Lula. The majority, obviously. Nobody held that against Obrador. They knew what it was. And by the way, Bibi was never, taken down, fully convicted, but he was charged. He had a lot of the same kind of crap, twisting of the law and whatnot. And yet he was elected again in a landslide. However, just saw a poll yesterday, 75% of Israelis want Netanyahu to resign. So Americans, we're seeing our polls here. Do you support Bibi? Do you not? It's overwhelming support for Bibi in America. However, in Israel, I told you, eventually when the rally to the flag effect fades, Bibi will pay a political price for this, and he will. All right, so there's that. All right, so I couldn't look at your comments while I was going through it, so let me see if I can grab some right now. Hi, Rich. Suffolk County went red. Yeah. Yes, Josh LaFazin is gone and won a district in Brooklyn that Dems thought they had in the bag. How significant is this? Can you imagine this? Suffolk County, it's like Long Island too, being like specifically being turning into like a Republican stronghold. And again, because Trump lost in 20, we didn't talk about some of this stuff that was enormously significant. Trump did as well as Reagan in parts of New York Republicans hadn't performed like that since Ronald Reagan, since the party moved away from that kind of Republican. So very, very significant it is. And it tells me, there's an argument that Trump's national vote lead could end up being something like the generic ballot was. Our generic ballot was right in 22. The problem is they underperformed in key areas. They did that because of turnout. Trump, the question is whether or not his popular vote lead right now is going to be on the back of doing better in blue areas, but still not making enough ground up in the key areas to win the Electoral College. So literally Trump wins the popular vote and loses the Electoral College. Hillary Clinton's people were making that argument when polls started to shift against her. He could win the popular vote, but he still has no chance of winning the Electoral College. It doesn't work with Donald Trump, as we just went over with those polls. Donald Trump is ahead everywhere. In this many out of this many swing states. If he takes Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia, add Nevada to it as a bonus. And by the way, Maine's probably going to fall too if that's the case. I'm serious. People don't mark my words. He wins the 2nd congressional district, but with the shift we're seeing in areas like New York, it's funny because we're again, guys, don't forget the book club. We're reading the emerging Republican majority right now, and I can't talk about this in the way I want to because so many people aren't in the book club. But for the book club people out there, you know what I'm talking about. Megalopolis, right? We're even seeing gains in the megalopolis at this point, which is what Crew Kid is talking about. Runs right through the 5 boroughs. It's huge, so huge. So let's say the polling's right, and he's a hair down in Wisconsin. I think, however, he is up in. I'd have to go and look. I don't know why they don't have their map up yet. Probably because it's too early. But if we were to go to, let me go to latest. But I want to make sure I say this correct. I want to make sure I'm right. Okay. No, he is up in Michigan. So he's only Biden's only got a tiny, tiny lead in Wisconsin. And when I say tiny, it's less than a point. Trump is up a little over a point, it looks like, in Michigan. And actually, Biden's only up in the head-to-head in Wisconsin. He's down by 2 in the multi-ballot average. So Trump is ahead everywhere in the Electoral College. He's ahead even in Nevada, which is the one state that I think would be probably harder for under normal circumstances. And you guys know how I have felt about that state for a long time. But the numbers with Hispanics, they have to bear out somewhere. And from our polling and everybody else's polling, it looks like that is in Arizona and Nevada at this point. Because if you look at the polling in Arizona, ironically, he's doing well with whites, not really any better than he did in 2020. He's right around his normal white vote share. It's because he's doing 10 points better with Hispanics. That's why he's ahead in Arizona. All right. Big deal. That's the difference, by the way, between 38% or 36% in Pima County and 42%. It's the difference between just being, under 50 in Maricopa or being at 52%. And by the way, you win Maricopa, it's a wrap. And you can actually you don't want to do it, but you can squeeze enough votes out of the rest of Arizona to just barely lose Maricopa. But God, why do it? Win Maricopa, outperform with Hispanics, especially on the border where Pinal County is. Kerry Lake did very well there. Trump, it looks like, is going to just crush it. Then that's it. That state is definitely in the bag. But where would it show up elsewhere? It would show up in a state like the Silver State. And you have Clark County, 70% of the vote statewide coming from Clark County. I mean, if you can get bare even in Clark County, it's over. And by the way, this myth of bleeding the white vote, he wouldn't be ahead in Washoe County in every single one of these polls if he was bleeding white vote. He's ahead in Washoe County. That's big. Go back and look at 22. Go look at the governor's race and the Senate race. Even though we had Laxalt up by 2 in our August poll, it really did forecast his loss because Cortez Masto had a lead in Washoe and there was almost no one undecided. And then he was doing very strongly in Clark, but she won all those undecideds. She took all those undecideds. And she was able to just barely edge ahead of Laxalt. But that couldn't happen against Lombardo because Lombardo held on in Washoe. He did slightly better in Clark. So he was able to keep it. It's a great guy. It's very significant. Very, very, very significant. All right. Stopping people coming out in support of Trump like this is the kind of thing I had in mind when I said the DeSantis campaign was a needed part of the prosecution effort. Listen, Jay, this is what it comes down to at this point. I think Mercedes Schlapp made this point on Newsmax the other day. So did Caroline Levitt, who would both admittedly support Donald Trump, but it doesn't make them wrong. And I had a donor from DeSantis' campaign who now no longer is giving them money. I told you guys about this when it first happened, maybe something like 5 or 6 weeks ago. She called me and she said, this really is only happening because Republicans aren't totally united against it. Because other presidential campaigns are running with the hope that he is prosecuted, fully removed, or maybe they issue some kind of gag order at that time, which they did later, and then he breaks it. They hold him in contempt. I mean, they are waiting for that. And she was right that there's no doubt if everybody got out and said, this is more important than I am. This is more important than my political ambitions. We cannot allow the Biden regime, this totalitarian regime, to do this. Everybody needs to get behind him because we have to defeat this. We don't have a country unless this is defeated. Number one, Republican unity and turnout would be goodbye. Goodbye. Be an R+2 electorate at least nationwide. Goodbye. It's over. All right. And more independents would come along because nobody follows people that don't have the courage of their own conviction. All right. It's just a fact. No, it's human nature. It's not partisan. You don't follow crooks or cowards. And I mean crooks as in like people who put themselves above the cause. So yeah, I mean, she was right. She hasn't given a dime to the DeSantis campaign since she came to that fruition. And by the way, if I said her name out loud, you'd know her. She's constantly, a part of the conversation when it becomes time to talk about Republican money. Let's see what else we got here. Happy Veterans Day, brother. Happy Veterans Day, Charles. Today is the Marine Corps' birthday. Hoorah! Seriously, though, brother, I fear we'll enter a civil war before World War One. Before World War, excuse me. I think civilians don't understand what that really means or are ready for. I share this fear. I think about it probably daily. I really do. And I also think about the second part of that. Everybody, Charles at home, they watch like war movies. It's Veterans Day. They'll probably be like born on the 4th of July on, right? My son and I had a conversation the other day because he showed me these awesome, this website. Years ago, we met the guy who I don't know what you call it, crafted Mel Gibson's Claymore in Braveheart. And actually, little secret, it's not just one of them. He made a couple. I believe it was, I'd have to go ask my son, but it was several of them. Anyway, he knows I like armory and stuff, and there's a couple of things that I want that are really, including to find somebody I believe has the skills that I'd be willing to pay for it to craft me Geralt's Witcher gear. Not all of it. There are a couple of pieces I want, including the sword, both the silver sword and the steel sword. Of course, I can't afford a big giant sword of silver. Contrary to the wiki things, I'm not worth $20 million. But basically, yeah, it's cool. And then we talked about William Wallace, and he didn't really know that much about it. And he's watching the movie because they have off today. He's watching the movie last night and learning about William Wallace, who's the real one, who's the Mel Gibson version. And do you remember the scene in the Battle of Bannockburn, right? The Bannockburn, Wallace literally like takes legs off and sledgehammers someone's head, and he's like, whoa, like he doesn't watch violence like that often. People watch these movies. I don't really think they understand what real war looks like, Charles. And I don't think I just want, I really wish we would, let me put it this way. I share, I think you do too, because I'm getting it from what you're saying. I don't want them to come to that realization. And I really wish they would come to their senses. I really wish the people who think that everything can be sacrificed in the name of stopping a single man because he wants to change the status quo. I really wish, they sent everyone else's sons and daughters to go die. They never do it themselves. I really wish they knew what they were parading us into. They don't give a shit. They'll go hide in a bunker, Charles, or something. I'm serious, and so many of these people online, they just don't get it. They really don't understand what that would look like, what that would mean. And I pray to God every day it's avoided. I do too. Happy Veterans Day, brother. Thanks for the comment. Pray every day it's avoided. Let's see if we can get some from locals. What do we got here? Rich, I feel like you have to add about 5% to the Democrat polling for what the actual vote will be, because they get that much more of their voters out over Republicans. Brimstone DDD, love you're thinking. You better run like you're 10 points behind, because they're going to pull out every single stop. Laxalt was up by 2, wasn't enough. In a state like that, they can easily cover 2 points with their BS. Pennsylvania, with the Supreme Court election, I don't like what I saw there. I like to consider myself to be a rather level-headed guy. If you were watching the results with us on election night, on Tuesday night, something went very, very, very wrong in Northampton. It's not usually a county where people go and, automatically point the finger and say, this was fraud. There's something wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something wrong in what happened in Northampton. This is a county in the eastern region of Pennsylvania, the easternmost. And it almost always is very close to, if not damn identical to Erie County.
which is the Northwest. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's that way for a reason. Monroe, to the north of Northampton, is usually more pro-Democrat. So, for instance, Biden and Trump were separated by less than a point in Northampton. Same thing in Erie. The margins were almost identical. Same thing in 2016 when Trump carried both those counties against Hillary Clinton. It was basically identical. And the margin was basically identical. Monroe was always a few points more Democratic. Trump came pretty close to it. Lackawanna, same thing. Even though Trump flipped Luzerne, Carluccio flipped it. She won Erie County and lost Northampton by 15 plus points. It doesn't make any sense what happened because the pattern of voting that was coming in Erie County was the same as Northampton. They got blown out in the early vote, and I mean blown out, 80-20. But then she was winning the election day votes by such a margin that by the time they got to 67% reporting, it was a little over 2-point spread, Carluccio trailing. By the time they surpassed 72.5% of the reported vote, Carluccio took the lead, and it went back and forth a little bit, but she's able to hang on. Northampton was following that pattern until Carluccio's dump, the next dump, was set to get her to take the lead. And then there was some massive revision, supposedly to reflect the true vote because of the machine failures. And it wasn't just a tiny revision. It was a massive revision that put Northampton way outside of the normal voting pattern for the county compared to other counties. Now, again, turnout was down in some of the red, not some, a lot of the red areas in the state. And Democrats squeezed out more votes out of their areas than Republicans squeezed out of their areas. But still, that is not normal. And if you look at that map, that is a Trump winning map, county by county. So if something like that happened in Northampton, are we just supposed to feel like we can be totally secure and confident in the results of the rest of the counties? I sure as hell don't. I'm sorry. I once again saw a Republican get right to 20% in Philadelphia and then get drugged all the way back down to 15%. Why? Because not of some weird change in what ward was reporting over the other. That's not what happened. Once again, oh, you know what? This ward had more early votes. Okay. Bullshit. And to simply put an end to this. There's a very simple way to put an end to this. Polls close at 8 p.m. Central Time. Fine. The vote totals for election day votes, or for absentee ballot votes, have to be in by 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is just like Florida does. Election day deadlines for reporting total tallies. Not margins, simple tallies. It's very simple. County A, how many absentee ballots arrive by 7:30 p.m.? It's that simple. That is due to the Secretary of State at 7:30 at night. If it's not, the Secretary of State has wide latitude to do what they feel is appropriate to protect the integrity of the election. If you do not have those deadlines, you are opening the door for exploitation. You are essentially telling any bad faith actor, hurry up, get some in, fake the signatures, get them stuffed in, and let's get it done. And I said this the other day, and I'll say it again. This idea that fraud does not occur is just the most naive, stupid, dumbest nonsense I've ever heard. Human beings kill other human beings to obtain power, to sleep with another man's wife or to sleep with another woman's husband. They kill for money, insurance, whatever. You think they wouldn't fudge a couple ballots to win an office? To take control of a state Supreme Court that decides the presidency? Give me a break. You will never catch me being that dumbass and naive. Sorry, no way. I come from too much of the real world.
Dweej, I know Charlie Kirk is setting up a ballot harvesting operation in swing states, but is Trump campaign investing in this at all or going to? Dweej, it's not their job to do it. Truth be told, it's not their job to do it. It is the job, or to pay for it. It is the job of the Republican donor class to pay for that. It is the job of the RNC to try to find people and bring them into the fold that are willing to fund Republican operations. Unfortunately, I've said this a million times. Charlie Kirk has not received a phone call yet from Ronna McDaniel. Not one. By the way, for somebody who apparently watches the show, Laura did get the email, and I will reach out to Ronna McDaniel. Thank you very much for trying to connect us. If she really wants to have a conversation, I would be much obliged. I'll be happy to talk to Ronna. I will take her phone call if she takes mine. But she is centralizing this stuff, and it ain't working. This back and forth with the Virginia GOP. Two things can be true, by the way, and I do want to point that out. I do think that, and if I can get rid of this video for 1 second, I do think what Ronna said, I got to listen. I'm not always like, on the attack. When people just, when people deserve accolade, they get accolade. If they say something that's true and they deserve it, that's true. Yesterday, I defended Ron DeSantis against NBC News. NBC is wrong. Just because he's supposed to fly the planes himself, they fact checked him. It's ludicrous. All right. So when I'm a fair guy, is my point. I am a fair guy. So what she said to Larry O'Connor, I could say I agree with. That candidates need to learn how to walk and chew gum at the same time. However, there is some more information. Her side of the story does not appear to be the true one. It's possible that Glenn Youngkin told her they didn't need any more money, but Glenn Youngkin's not in charge. The state parties are the ones who are supposed to communicate back and forth with the RNC. And by the way, vice versa. The RNC is supposed to communicate with them, not take the word of the governor. And by the way, why was she directly talking to the governor anyway? We all know was hoping that they could win the state Senate and the House of Delegates so he could have a presidential justification to launch his presidential campaign with. The hell is she doing talking backdoor channels with them anyway? I'm serious. I want an answer. You're not supposed to be favoring one over the other. What are you doing? The state party is the one you discuss that stuff with, not Glenn Youngkin. Let's listen to what Ronna has to say. And again, I'm going to even give her credit. I agree with what some of what she's saying. Let's go.
You don't let people lie about you and let it go unanswered. Let it go unanswered. If somebody's spending $30 million against you and they're lying about you and say you won't give life-saving care for miscarriages or ectopic pregnancy, you better get on TV and tell them that the voters that that's a lie, or they think that's the truth. And our candidates have got to do this. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can go and say, this is where I stand. The Democrats are lying. And now let's talk about crime, schools, border, fentanyl, and national security.
I just want to clarify one quick thing, though. The RNC had no involvement in these elections in Virginia per Governor Youngkin's request?
We were told in the summer they didn't need us, that they had all the money and they were good. So that was the conversation.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
We'll be following up on that to find out what's that all about. That's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, you and the rest of the world. All right, so now let's go to this because I got right from Twitter. Okay, you can see Charlie Kirk himself right here saying, video evidence. Ronna claims Youngkin told her the RNC wasn't needed in Virginia. VA Gov Chair Rich Anderson disagrees. He has now confirmed with Charlie that he asked the RNC to match the Democrats' $100 million late cash infusion into the state. Republicans were outspent by $8 million, and they lost the election by a couple thousand votes. Ronna is blaming everyone except herself. Enough, Ronna, resign. Excuse me. In Life News, just piggybacking off of what Charlie's doing, for the love of God. You have Larry here, by the way, 5 hours ago saying also Rich Anderson, that's the chair of the Republican Party, confirmed that the state party, been offered financial assistance at any time for that week's election, he would have gladly accepted the financial assistance. He says that the elections that made the difference this week came down to just a few. They did. 100,000 votes. Democrats outspent Republicans by $8 million in this election. Anderson asked the RNC to match the Democrats' $1 million influx into the Virginia elections, and he was denied. I have to also say this. They didn't come to the rescue of any of the groups that were getting the vote out, like Matt Brainerd's group, by the way, was being persecuted by the attorney general in the state. Yeah. Who's the attorney general? Why? Because he was telling voters and leaving literature at the door saying, listen, if you don't vote, literally your life depends on it. I mean, they can take away your rights. They'll take away your guns. They'll take away your Social Security. They'll do this. And they're like, this isn't true. This is blatant misinformation. It's against state law. Excuse me. If the budget blows, they take away your social benefits. There's no lie about that. If Democrats had someone to sign a bill, they would take away your guns. This isn't a hypothetical. There's no lie here. Where was she? No lawyer to Matt? He had to do it all by himself. So not only did Matt have to waste resources from his donors on defending himself, which the media went after him, smear job after smear job. Not only did he have to hire and retain counsel to go after and try to fight back, that money could have been used on getting people boots on the ground. And that's what Matt's organization was doing, Matt Brainerd's organization. They were registering people to vote. So, the answer, it's a very long answer to your question. But it's not the Trump campaign's job to spend money on this. Biden's campaign itself will not invest $1 in that. They may direct money because when the president is the president, it's different. They have joint committees and they will, wind up saying allocate this to that and the other thing. But Democrats do this through third-party groups. They harvest through third-party groups. The president can get infrastructure in place. He can provide, donors, Rolodexes. But their job will not be that. Their job will be crafting messages, cutting campaign ads, doing digital campaigns, amongst other things. Believe me, Biden's campaign is going to use AI at the wazoo this time. How far did the GOP turnout miss expectations or projections? Depends where you're talking about. That's a great question. Depends where you're talking about. And it's 2:00. I got to go because I got a friggin' doctor appointment. Otherwise, I'd rather talk to you guys all day. Because I did want to talk to you about what, this poll thing. I'm running out of time. Got a poll. I got a poll this weekend or something. I do. So I don't know where we're going to do it. Contribute as much as you can to the Georgia poll if you want the Georgia poll done. Contribute to the national poll if you want the Rust Belt poll done. I wanted to do Iowa because we had a little bit, but let's see how. I will give a little bit of time this weekend and see which one gets or makes up the most ground, and then maybe we'll consider switching it, because I get what you're saying. I just wanted to see if the Reynolds endorsement had an impact. I think that's important. Do I think it will be an impact? Absolutely not. But I like numbers to speak for me. I don't like to make assumptions and then, rely on those assumptions. I like to have our own work done so we can do it. All right. So what was I going to say real quick again? Yeah, again, I mean, it depends. In Mississippi, it was quite a bit down. Look at Biloxi, netting only 7,000 votes. That's about 13%, at least less than what we thought. And in Virginia, several of these places really, again, I need to make sure people understand this stuff. If a Democrat was in a district in Virginia that was Biden plus 8, or less, the Democrat lost. That ain't bad. Virginia is a blue state. All right. Can it be won under the right circumstances? Like I told Chuck on Freedom Square yesterday. Sure. In a total catastrophe of a year with extremely high Republican turnout. But, let's not overstate, the failure here. Pennsylvania, that's another story. For instance, in the Republican areas of Allegheny, she fell below her target by 1 point overall countywide. But if turnout had been what we thought it was going to be, which was like 18% in some of these precincts that was shy, then she would have far exceeded her 39% target in Allegheny, far exceeded it. And that would help buffer her in southeastern Pennsylvania. She did take Burks. There was a little bit of a surge there, but I think she should have, or could have won Burks by a few points more. So it's just like a little bit here, a little bit there. That's a really good question. It's not, overall, I haven't averaged it overall, but Republicans are generally coming in the low 30s in a lot of these areas. Democrats are coming in around 40. So, they're just able to edge them out and make races closer that should not have been that close, like Mississippi. Again, Presley, he got 38,000 votes out of Hine County. He netted it because of Democratic turnout. 38,000 votes, 8,000 more than Hood did in 2019, even though turnout was roughly the same overall. Why? Because Republican turnout was down. And Biden only, in a presidential race, netted 50 out of Hine County. 50,000 votes. And Trump does better in Hine anyway than other Republicans. That's true. But Trump squeezed 30,000 votes out of Biloxi. So you basically wipe most of Biden's margin in Hine and Jackson off the map. So some areas it was much worse, that's it. Kentucky was a little bit of both, combination of turnout, but also Cameron, with his connection to Mitch McConnell, was the McConnell machine against the Bashir machine, and Bashir's political royalty in that state. And again, people should need to go back and look at the record of Kentucky and how many Republican governors were elected in the state of Kentucky over the last half century. It's not many. Matt Bevin didn't get a second term. Okay, go look at the last Republican governor. Go see if he got a second term. He didn't. So it's, a big thing Republicans keep doing too is something I've criticized the DeSantis campaign over because they're amateurs, hyping expectations. You don't hype expectations in politics, because if you miss those expectations, you're going to get hit by it. And then you're going to get caught in a negative loop, a negative media, negative headline loop, where you just can't get out of it. You can't get good coverage. Nikki Haley's campaign does a lot better job at seizing good coverage and seizing headlines, seizing on things that they can use to drive positive headlines. The DeSantis campaign, I'm sorry, but they got used to a less than adversarial media and not even an adversarial legislature, and a legislature that would basically, lay on their bellies and let Ron DeSantis walk over them in the mud. I mean, that's over now too. So I really feel for Florida, because, you're just not going to get the government you had before. And that's sad. It really is. All right. It's 2:05. I got to kick rocks. Don't forget to contribute far and wide to the Public Polling Project. Special thanks to Robert Barnes for being way ahead of the curve with me as usual. I'm glad to be able to pull that back up. And to those who cut it and crop it and keep the receipts, we love you for it. Best place, of course, we're everywhere. If you like the video, like it. Where are you right now? Locals? Like it. Are you on YouTube? Like it. Are you on Getter? Like it. If you're on Rumble, like it. And definitely subscribe to wherever you are. As a matter of fact, I don't care if you're watching on YouTube. Go over to Rumble and subscribe on Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble, go over to Locals. Sign up. peoplespundit.locals.com. Like us on YouTube as well. Subscribe on YouTube as well. The best place, of course, to follow us is on Locals. peoplespundit.locals.com. There you'll get polls first. You'll get, you'll just get insight there first. And you'll get, like being a YouTube member, you'll get special treatment. Book club, Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got to have a conversation about what we're going to do with book club. We got to have a conversation about this. I don't want to take people's Fridays away, but it did seem like people had some Fridays. I don't know. We'll discuss it again. Where you don't have to have the book to join us on book club. The Emerging Republican Majority. We read it out loud. We discuss it. You can follow along. All right, so the link will be in for YouTube members. It'll be in the community section on Sunday. And of course, for locals, you will get it on Sunday as well for supporters. Sign up on Locals, folks. peoplespundit.locals.com. Share the Public Polling Project. Contribute. Share it far and wide. And we will see you soon, because we want to poll. Listen, I've been in recovery for almost 20 years. Proud of it. Super proud of it. But I still withdraw from polling, all right? Public polling in particular. I'm getting withdrawal symptoms from not polling. Let's get her done. Get her done. All right, guys. Thanks as always, and I will see you in a little bit. We'll talk more about this, all right? Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. I'm your host, Rich Barris. Nothing but love, folks.